DAPT processes where we had cold spray that you can bring the component to the booth and spray the component and have it repaired. What we're looking for is how do you bring cold spray to the component, and that's where John and his crew came up with the Raptor and the hatchable cold spray unit and went through those projects. We're also looking at, Dr. Eden gave a presentation on the Mars unit this morning. How that's another key element in bringing cold spray to the work, especially shipboard, as well as developing your hand spray qualifications for the applications that you just can't get a robot into. So currently we have cold spray fielded in Norfolk Naval Shipyard and Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard. We've got funding to install at Puget Sound, and as well as Portsmouth Naval Shipyard and SRF Japan. Portsmouth looks like they're going to be next. They're battling through all their facilities upgrades, and they hope to have their facilities upgrades completed by the end of October. Puget Sound had a location, and in the Pacific Northwest we get earthquakes, so they had seismic upgrades. The location they initially identified required far more seismic upgrades than what was anticipated, so they're looking hopefully by next spring to install their unit. So fielding of the portable equipment, Portsmouth is about ready to have their Raptor shipped. Penn State has been working to develop the training for the Raptor, as well as they'll be working on the hand sprays using the Raptor. Tim also mentioned the UIPI. Tom Stamey started writing the UIPI after, I believe it was the CSAT in 2016. It got approved. That is our approval document for NAVSEA component repair. And currently, Tom's leading the team to revise that and make the changes as necessary. Penn State has also been key in developing the training in accordance with the UIPI. I know Dan and his crew have been up there at Penn State to get the certifications. Pearl Harbor is flying out next month to get certified. So we have 20 plus qualified spray procedures. Some of them have been organically produced inside the shipyard. Most of them have been produced with the help of our partners. We have 18 components repaired and placed in service, and we're looking at Jamex for the database for QSP storage, so we can bring all that information together and share it. One of the things we were looking at with fielding this technology in the shipyards is, let's get all the same equipment so we can share the QSPs. QSP development takes money. As long as you use the same equipment and parameters, you can share those QSPs. So standardizing the testing, Dr. Eden talked about. Once we looked at the testing for the UIPI process, we all know how to do it, but we're doing it differently just by interpretation. So we've come together and developed the standard testing protocol. So I also talked about cold spray as a service. So to bridge that gap between fielding the technology in the shipyards and repair facilities to having the capability to repair components, we came up with a tool of pop-up cells. So what a pop-up cell is designed for is to bridge the gap and quickly bring new technology to a certain location as a service. So we've partnered with VRC as a pilot to open the first pop-up cell. They did the ribbon cutting on the 2nd of June in Chesapeake, Virginia. The idea was from the time it goes on contract, 90 days to having this pop-up cell up and operational. We were close. COVID again reared its ugly head and slowed the equipment getting there on time, which also slowed our NAVSEA site certification process. But we hope to have that resolved by the end of this month and start sending components through. So the other idea is, you get the pop-up cell there in 90 days. When you get your component, your turnaround time is 21 days. So from when they receive the component to it gets back on the ship will be 21 days is the goal. So what that will afford us is, it may not be a cost savings, but it will be a schedule savings. If we have boats that can't go out to sea because their components aren't repaired, this gives us another tool in the toolbox to repair those components and speed that process along. So I know Kylie and her team tried extremely hard to meet that 90-day window, and thank you for your efforts. So adapting cold spray technology, we talked about the MARS unit, taking current cold spray technology and adapting it to use shipboard. That, again, was the idea behind the Raptor as well as the Dragonfly. So we're also working to develop the QSP so you can hand spray, and Penn State's been working with us on that. We're looking at, we're working with Solvus for powder packaging and development, so we can take this powder into the shipyard environment and it doesn't get damaged. So the next steps we're looking at for designing cold spray technology is expeditionary applications. Dr. Eden showed you the MARS unit and incorporating cold spray into that MARS unit. Working on virtual cold spray. How do we use computers to help us virtually develop virtual cold spray? CAD to virtual cold spray, tool path planning, and virtual testing capabilities. So, any questions? Yes?
Thanks very much. You indicated you've identified 18 product families that you've qualified the technology for implementation. Can you describe sort of the neighborhood of those components? Are they cylindrical in nature? Are they shaped, convex, concave, porthole? Just help me a little bit about where in the Navy ship, I'm assuming you're not preparing for color.
Right. So
where does it fall in the range of shapes and features that need to be replaced?
okay, so I referred to 18 components that have been repaired and put on ships. Tom and Dan are shipyard professionals back there. Do you want to answer that, or are you going to answer that tomorrow in your presentation?
Go through a couple tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep. So he.
About where it's kind of falling in the entire spectrum.
It's really look at it like a lot of piping machinery kind of situations, right? So
Yep.
from lower grooves to flanges to valve line.
One of our next steps is looking at it as a coating. We don't have current approval under the UIPI to use it as a coating or for structural. So those are some of our next targets. Any other questions? Anything online? All right. Thank-
I do have one.
Yes.
So in regards to powders, okay, like within the Army, we're more or less, I'll say more or less, controlling that in terms of people utilizing the powder specification and getting it from food sources. Is that what the Navy's doing right now?
There is a section in the UIPI about powder selection, correct, Tom?
Yeah, so with powders, it's baked into the USB, so you get a part number from A
So Vic's asking, what is the path forward for structural? We're currently looking at what the requirements would be. It sounds like it would be another UIPI. Yes, oh, Tom's raising his hand.
No, that will be baked into mine. The structural will be baked into mine. Right now, I haven't seen, the first step for structural is showing material properties that reflect enough ductility to be considered ductile materials. The vast majority of fancy stuff has to be ductile, right? Like, they're built to take heat. So once we have that in materials that we use on the ship, then it's a matter of the test parameters we would need to do and then bake that into the idea. The process is there. It's just a matter of establishing, like, show me that we can do it, and then we'll make the test and we'll bake that in. Like, I've got the shell. I just don't have any. I don't have to do filling. You're supposed to. I need somebody to give me gooey filling. Doesn't work.
So you just need the data.
Yeah, if you got data for good structural repairs, that's something I'll start working with Nancy on right away.
Yeah, because, so the short answer is yes. So I would say, Matt, just make sure that Tom is fed the data. I mean, the data's been generated for a while. Because that's what's holding up the meeting. That's fine. What I said was data will be sent via Dr. Ciopis to the Navy in regards to that because that data has existed for a while and others are using it to qualify structural repairs so that way the Navy will be kind of up to speed.
Dr. Eden?
ONR has the solid-state structural repair program where they're developing this data for aluminum 7050, and I believe SAFE is going to present some of that data. So there is a program already looking at the fatigue properties of cold spray repair 7050, and that would be probably the first. And phase 1, I think, is over. Phase 2 is looking at a component that they would repair and perform the structural repair on and qualify it. So if the SAFE folks are here, let me know if that's true or not.
I confirm that we are working on 7050 and have targeted a structural component on the NavAir side.
Okay, are we ready for Matt Ciopis? Thumbs up. Half thumb? Okay. All right, so it's me again. So Matt Ciopis actually has made the same journey as Aaron Nardi did from United Technologies to ARL. He heads up the cold spray efforts along with Mark Pepe, who you heard from before. He's going to represent the Army in terms of what the Army's doing in regards to cold spray development, applications, transition. All right, Matt, take it away.
All right, so good afternoon. I'm going to take a little bit different approach. I'm going to cover some of the Army modernization priorities and some examples of what we've been doing. So I'd love to get into all the different applications